So let's begin our practice together, finding the ground as it supports us in whatever position feels best to rest and relax into. So taking that time to feel the weight of your limbs softening into the ground. Being mindful of how your lower back feels today. Shifting the position of the legs or the pelvis to find more space where you need it. And then because our focus is the neck today, just maybe check in with, shoulders have a lot to do with how the neck feels. So where do your shoulders land into the support of the ground in relation to your neck, your ears? Yeah, and could you find a little more space or length between the ears and the shoulders here? And you might do little nods of your head, just gentle little nods, rolling side to side. And just feeling that little shift of weight happening into the back of your head, where it meets the floor or the pillow if you happen to have something under your head. And could you find center? And then do just a tiny little movement of tucking the chin down and lifting it up, so just a little tiny nodding of your head, yes. Chin up, chin down. And then finding the position of your chin, which is also your neck, your head. Where do you land your chin where you feel spacious through both the front of your neck around the throat, as well as into the back of your neck, base of your skull. Yeah, and then can you let go of the full weight of your head here as you soften into your face and relax through the eyes, into the jaw, and start to tune in to sense your whole body, making this connection with the ground through the back of it. And letting go of your body's weight little by little. Feeling the areas within your body start to soften, unfolding, releasing, letting go as best they can. And as you feel that softness come within the body, can you feel how the breath moves your body? And where do you feel the movements of your inhale, breath coming in, and where do you feel the movements of your exhale, breath flowing out? And start to notice the nature of your breath right now, feeling its natural pace and its natural depth. And you might also notice whether one part of your breath is much longer than the other. So if the exhale is shorter than the inhale, or vice versa. And then see if you can let the inhale and the exhale be the same length. So your breath finds an evenness, a steadiness, where the exhales are just as long as your inhales, and your inhales are just as long as your exhales. So if you find it helpful to count the length of the inhale and the exhale, landing on a number that feels easy and relaxed, feel free to do that for the last few cycles of breath here. So letting your breath land into a steady rhythm. No need to force the breath to be long. Just find that count naturally, effortlessly, but also deliberately. And all the while continuing to sense your whole body as you let yourself rest. And feeling how your breath moves your body. And now let's little by little start to bring some gentle movement back into your body. You might start with your hands, your fingers, opening and closing, curling and spreading. And starting to do the same with the toes. And deepening the inhales through the nose. You might like to sigh out the exhales through the mouth. And letting the eyes open whenever you're ready for that. And then we can start to allow for a little more movement into the head and neck. So let the head roll from sort of behind one ear to behind the other ear. Take your time with that roll. Letting the head feel like it's weighted through the ear as it moves in that direction. So kind of bringing your awareness into the back of your head and feeling this lovely rolling point of contact, rolling massage in the back of the head from behind one ear to behind the other. And it's almost like as that one ear, is moving towards the ground, it's like your head is kind of gently rolling down a little hill, just letting the weight of it release before it moves that back through center and over to the other side. Yeah, and all the while keeping the breath moving, and of course you're welcome to keep the eyes open or closed. All right. And then bringing your head back to center. Let's go for a bigger stretch now. We'll bring both arms to stretch back. Find, if you like, both legs along the ground. And as you lengthen through the whole body, could you keep your neck long, stretching back towards the hands as you also feel your tail reaching towards the space between your feet. Yeah, and feel the whole body breathing in. Whole body breathing out. Whatever that means to you. All right, and then let's go ahead and hug the knees in, rock around a little bit, and get a sense just, of how your lower back is feeling, maybe a little bit of movement into your hips as well. So you're welcome to have your knees together or apart for this. Just sort of rolling and rocking and massaging. Okay, and then let's bring both feet to the floor, but keep the feet a little wider apart. So, we'll do some windshield wiper movements and maybe have the arms out like a T shape on the ground. Feet, somewhere between shoulder and mat width apart. And then as you let your knees fall to one side, let your head roll again in the opposite direction of your knees. Yeah, and then feel the inhale, bring everything back through center and over to the other side. So this, again, rolling through the back of the head, but also feeling your weight shift across the back of your pelvis, finding some gentle movements here into each hip. Good. And keep it going for a few more cycles. Find your own rhythm. Could be nice and slow, could be a little faster than how I am moving. You might just take your time. And then maybe the next time the knees go to the left, let's stay with the knees to the left and the head a little to the right. So see if you can feel that right shoulder resting a little bit away from the ear. So you might have to kind of tuck it under you a little more. That's it. And feel that right ear melting towards the ground. And then allow for the right knee to kind of reach more towards the opposite foot. And feel free to then stretch the right arm back a little more, sort of back towards the corner of your space. So feeling a little more length coming into this whole right side, from ear down to the shoulder, from right hand all the way through the right side down to that right knee. And let the breath fill that space you feel. Good, and then you can release the right arm, maybe a little lower again. Slowly bring everything back to center. And just take a moment, rest in the center. Get comfortable keeping the feet wide on your mat. And then when you're ready, let the knees go over to the right. Head rolls to the left. And you might want to kind of tuck this left shoulder down away from that ear as you let the left ear melt towards the ground. Feel your left knee, that inner knee, moving more towards the opposite foot. You could also kind of squeeze a bit through that left glute. So you're lifting a little through that left hip and then find the stretch back through the left arm. And all the while keeping that space through the neck as we breathe here into our left side. Wonderful. And then taking it back to center. All right. So what we're going to do is find, a little bit of a lift of the head. So this will work into the front of the neck muscles. So at first, we're not even going to lift the head at all. We're going to get the head as light as it can be on the floor. So, just let your arms rest in any position at all. I like to keep my knees bent for this, just feeling that, wide base of supporting to the back of the pelvis, lots of length into the lower back. And, just feeling again where the head sits, where, the chin isn't higher than the forehead. Okay, so make sure the chin is a little tucked down so the back of the neck finds more length into the base of the skull. And then let's go ahead and just see what happens as you try to kind of take some of the weight off your head. So your head will not actually lift, but what you'll notice is as soon as you try to almost lift your head, the muscles deep into the front of your neck are going to engage, okay? So I'm not even lifting my head. I'm just kind of letting it go as light as it can, go before it lifts, and then I can let it relax again into the floor. Okay, so just do that a few times where you have the suggestion as though you want to lift your head, but you're not quite lifting your head. And notice what goes on deep into, throat, neck, front of neck muscles. Okay. It should be barely visible to anyone who's watching you or seeing you, that you're doing anything much. But you can feel it in your body. So finding that gentle suggestion of lift through the back of the head and then letting it relax back into the floor again. Okay, you might hear these tiny little, creaks going on deep into the skull. And then just let that go for a moment. Feel a full breath. And then let's try to now lift the neck, okay? So lift the head is what I mean. So when we have that first suggestion of lift, we find that those deep neck muscles helping us. And then when we lift our head, keep the chin tucked down, turning the head to look more towards the thighs, So you're not lifting your head to keep looking up, but tucking the chin down towards your chest. And then slowly lower sort of from the base of your neck back to the base of the skull. Okay. So just a couple of these. We don't have to do many of these because this is working into our neck. So we tuck the chin a bit. We get as light as we can. And then we slowly lift just to where it's comfortable for you, right? So we're just lifting the head and moving through the neck, not at all through shoulders. And then coming on back down. Taking a pause, taking a breath. It can be quite surprising, right? So when we tuck the chin down and try to lift just the head, feel those neck muscles working for you. And these are actually important neck muscles to find some strength in. So we, can protect our neck if we have an accident or something like that. I've read that women tend to have more whiplash than men. And a lot of it has to do with how strong our neck muscles are. So maybe this is the last one, if you haven't stopped already. Okay, it doesn't take much. And then once your head releases, just allow the head again to roll a little side to side. Okay. All right. So now let's move a wee bit through the arms as well. So what we can do is start with your feet on the floor, arms along your sides. And we're just going to take the right arm to stretch back. So we're going to lift it up towards the ceiling and bring it back to land on the ground. And as you do that, let your head roll away from it, so to the left. And then when you bring your right arm back down, bring your head back to center. And then we'll do the other arm. So left arm is going to lift towards the sky, and as it goes back, let the head roll to the right, away from that left arm, and then back up through center with the head as the arm comes down. So feel those slow movements through shoulder, through neck, as you breathe. Let's go for one more in each direction, each side. As the left arm stretches back, the head rolls to the right, bringing the head back to center as the arm comes down beside you again. Okay, then we're just going to keep our head in the center while we stretch our right leg up towards the sky. So let's go ahead and find a little movement here where let's actually start with our right leg up and our right hand beside us. And then when we take our right leg down to the ground, let's send that right arm to stretch back. Yeah, and then bring the arm back down beside you as the leg lifts. So we're finding same side movement here. Lots of length into our right side As that leg lowers, stretches away from the head, right arm comes back. So while we move like this, can we keep the neck relaxed? Can we keep the head heavy? And feel a couple more breaths here, moving primarily just from shoulder and hip. Nice. And then last one, let's keep that right leg up towards the sky. And you're welcome to hold on to it if you like with both hands behind the thigh, or you could use a belt or a scarf for this. And then let's just get into a little bit of movement through the foot. Yeah, circling, pointing and flexing. Maybe you try to find some movement through those toes, waking up the feet a little more. Yeah. And feel another breath there. If you wanted to, for the last breath, you could exhale and hug up and in through your belly. Tuck your chin down towards your chest as you lift your head. You could also then try to lift your shoulders, upper back. There you go. Nice. And then lower everything back down to the floor and take a moment to rest. Come back to a full slow breath. All right, and then let's stretch up the left leg towards the sky. With that, both arms beside you, we can send the left arm back while the left leg moves down towards the floor. And then bring that left leg back up as the left arm comes down again beside you. So moving into our left side, feeling some of that space. Lengthening into that side body as your limbs stretch away from one another. And feeling these gentle movements through your shoulder, through your hip, while the neck, the head stays resting. How does your breath fall into a rhythm with this movement? I find myself inhaling when I stretch through the left side and then exhaling when I lift again, but it could be different for you. Nice. Let's go for one more. And when we lift that left leg again, we can hold on to it with our hands or a belt and just find a little movement here. So a good comfortable stretch through the back of that leg as we move into our foot, an ankle, circling in each direction a few times. Maybe some pointing and flexing, some curling and spreading of the toes. Nice. And then let's keep the heel kind of reaching a little more towards the sky, staying here for another breath, or choosing to hug up and in through the belly, tuck the chin down, lifting through the head, neck, shoulders, maybe the upper back a little bit, finding where you can be for the breath here. Great. And then lowering back to the floor and releasing it all. Nice. Okay, so let's come and roll over onto maybe our left side here. And as we rest on our left side, if you're wanting a little bit of a pillow under your head, you're welcome to have that, of course, because we're going to have our bottom arm stretching out in front of us and our right hand on top of that bottom arm. So we've got our knees bent around hip level or so in front. So let's just begin. If you have glasses on, if you do wear glasses, I suggest taking them off for this one, so that you can really feel first into the side of your head where it's resting into the floor, your pillow. And then starting to slide your top hand beyond your bottom one so that you're going to begin to roll onto like forehead, temple, brow, wherever you happen to land there. as you kind of turn towards the floor. And then start to roll back. So slide the right hand back along your bottom arm, and you roll more into that twist in and across your upper back. And maybe that right arm comes to rest out on the floor, and then just come back the same way. So sliding your hand along your body, feeling your head stay heavy. We're letting our head enjoy this rolling point of contact again, right? As we turn into the twist to the right, and as we come back, feeling the head rolling into the floor. That's it. Sometimes when we do these movements, right, the head, and the neck stay stiff. So the idea is to release and relax some of those muscles in the neck and let the head roll with your spine as it turns into the twist. And as it comes over onto the left side and you reach again that right hand, beyond the left one, you might even feel yourself coming more towards like the center of your forehead even. Just notice how far you go in that direction as well. That's it. Nice. And then when you feel ready, whenever you like, to come and land into that twist for a few breaths, let's be there. So we're turning our upper back to the right and maybe, readjusting where that right arm lands so that the shoulder can come towards the floor a bit. Maybe we adjust where our upper back has landed. And we could try to just feel a little movement through the neck again, turning, rolling, head to center, and then rolling head to the right again, and just feeling the range that is comfortable in this direction through the neck. Center and to the right and back. And then choose where your head wants to be. Does it want to stay more in the center? Does it want to rest more to the right? Continuing the twist through the neck. And let's feel a couple breaths here. Each exhale, could we let the right ear just sort of soften towards the floor? Let the neck muscles relax, the weight of the head release. That's it, nice. And then when you're ready, let's take our time to unwind. So you could first come onto your left side again, and then onto your back, or any other way you prefer. And just take a moment, feeling a change perhaps in the right side now compared to that left side, or the whole body feels a little different. Okay, and then let's take it over to the other side. So rolling over onto that right side, where you've got the right side of your head, the right shoulder, right hip on the floor. Knees are stacked, hips are stacked, arms are stretched out in front of you, stacked. And feeling where the right side of your head rests into that support, and really trying to let go of the weight of the head, softening into the neck. And then when we slide our left hand beyond our right one and reach it further out, we can feel ourselves turning towards the floor, rolling more towards, forehead, brow, and then sliding the hand back along the body till we're turning and opening into the twist to the left, and we let the head just follow. So can we feel the head stay heavy, neck relaxed, as it rolls, as we move in and out of this twist a few more times. Keep feeling your breath helping you along. You might notice a difference in this side too. Especially when we're rolling almost more towards the floor. Notice how far you go across your forehead on this side, in this direction. Noticing perhaps a difference compared to the other side. Nice. And then when you feel ready to land into your twist on this side, finding that position for yourself, making adjustments to allow your upper back to land into the floor as much as it does, letting that left shoulder feel comfortable. Arm can be at any angle at all from that shoulder. And then again, just check in with a little bit of movement in the head. So rolling it to center and then letting it release to the left as far as it goes comfortably. Doing that with some gentle repetitions and then choosing where your head wants to be. What feels best in your neck. And if your head is releasing to the left, can you let the weight of that ear just settle and soften with gravity? Releasing into the neck muscles on the other side. And feeling each breath here as it comes into your left side. Okay, and then when you're ready, we can unwind. So you can just roll straight onto your back first, or come back onto your right side, and then onto your back. All right, getting comfortable once again. So let's come over onto our side, and you can make a pillow if you want with your bottom arm. Rest there for a couple of breaths. Yeah, and then let's take it up into table pose. So feel free to have a little extra padding in your table pose here under your knees. And in fact, what you might want for a little bit later is we're going to go into child's pose where we have the top of our head on the floor, or what might be preferable is like using a bolster to bring the top of your head down onto. So just have something like that nearby, something perhaps a little softer and even a little bit higher, you know, a cushion, a pillow, a blanket, a bolster. So have that close by. And then let's find the support of our hands under the shoulders, knees below the hips. And let's find, you know, a fairly neutral spine to begin with. So wiggle around, shift, and feel where that happens to be for you. You know, try to notice where your shoulders sit against your back in relation to your ears. You might move them down the back a little bit. And then let's try to just move the neck, from the neck up. So we're not going to move upper back, shoulders, or further down from there, just the neck up. So let's go ahead and just maybe kind of hang the head down, you know. Try to feel the head nice and heavy, but the rest of the body stays where it is. And as your head is heavy, chin is moving more towards the chest, you might feel. Okay. And then slowly start to lift your head and let your gaze look forward, you know, to where it's comfortable for you through your neck. And then lower again, the weight of the head, chin towards the chest, and then lifting the head, moving just through the neck. So you might just notice as you move from your neck up, not from anywhere below, shoulders down. You might, you know, take note of how far back you can see and also how far forward or up you can look comfortably. It's not about how far, really, just kind of notice. Okay. And then how can we let our back, our spine, help us look further back? So we round our spine, right? And so now I can see, way past between my thighs, back towards my toes, whereas before I couldn't see past there. And then now when I arch my back and find more of that extension through the spine, you might notice that you have greater ease in the neck. So the back supports you looking forward, and the back also helps you look further back behind you as we round and arch the spine, the head, and the neck. Ride the spine. And the spine's movement and shape and position, obviously, has an impact in your head's position. So feeling these movements, still primarily through neck, but also, of course, feeling the rest of your spine move through cat-cow, but keeping your neck in mind as you move through. A couple more here. Nice. And then let's take it back into child's pose. So you're welcome to, if the ground often feels quite far away for your head in child's pose, bring a bolster or, pillow underneath your head. You could, if you've got a bolster, it's nice because it could go under the whole length of your upper body, or just something under your head is perfectly fine too. So the idea is to allow the weight of the head to rest into that support, whatever it happens to be, whether it's a block or your pillow or the ground. Rest your arms either forward or back by your shins. Knees can be as wide as you want for this. So feel where the forehead settles into that support. And try to allow for the weight of the head to rest down into that support with each exhale. And while you've got the forehead there, could you start to just gently roll across the forehead from side to side? Nice. So feeling that sort of gentle massage, whether you're on a softer or harder surface, obviously is going to have an impact in how this feels. Nice. Good. And then letting the head find center again, feeling a breath there. Softening into the shoulders, releasing the weight of the head more. Okay. And then let's come back up into more of a table position. So hips somewhere above the knees. And then this is where the softer surface might feel better for your head, because we're going to try to bring, with our hands supporting us, this is important. So we have weight in our hands, still kind of under the shoulders, and we try to bring the top of the head towards the floor onto our pillow or bolster, okay? But we're not letting all the weight fall into the top of the head, okay? So we're finding the support still into our hands. So you determine how much weight is in your head. And, the general rule is the neck doesn't like a lot of compression. So as little weight as is necessary for this, so that you can try to just gently rock your body a little back and forth. I'm going to bring my head all the way to the floor. So going back and forth. So your weight is going to tip more, towards the top of the head and maybe the brow or hairline. Okay, that's it. And if this is feeling comfortable, you could also try to kind of circle. Go in a bit of a circle with your whole body and keep the weight into the hands. So it's just a nice gentle scalp massage as you roll the top of your head into the floor or your pillow for a softer surface. You got it. And then go in the other direction. So it's not a huge movement. It's not a huge amount of weight. Just be careful about all that and find what you feel comfortable doing for a couple more breaths here. Nice. And then making your way back up into your table pose. You can set aside your pillow or bolster. And let's find a neutral spine again. So could you feel the crown of your head reaching forward, the base of your skull, back of your neck, moving more towards the sky above you? Okay. So you're still looking down. Tailbone reaches back, crown of the head reaches forward as we rock our table pose back and forth. You might curl the toes under for this one because we're going to eventually bring this into downward dog. But first, just sense the neck staying long. Even when you're going back with your hips a bit, can you keep the neck, the crown of your head, moving towards the space in front of you as your hips go back? Crown of the head reaches forward. That's it. Neck stays long. And then can you notice what happens when we bring it back into downward dog? So when we push forward and down into those hands and lift up through the knees, could we keep some of that length, as much of it as you can, through the neck? Yeah. So you might try that once or twice more, lowering the knees slowly down. Can you feel the neck lengthen forward as you rock forward, rock back, keeping the neck long as you send the hips up and back into downward dog. So a lot of this obviously is shoulder strength, shoulder support, moving the shoulders against the back, freeing the neck. As we go back into our downward dog, let's stay there for a couple breaths. And see if you can feel little nods of your head here. So let's do little nods, yes. Chin down, chin up. And can you let your head find where it's in line with the rest of the spine? It's not pushing forward, chin towards the chest, head in front of your shoulders. Maybe it's a little higher. Yes. Back of the neck long, head reaching more towards the hands. As you're here for another breath or two, can you stay with that nice length through the neck? Wonderful. And then from here, let's walk our feet forward and maybe take all the weight into your feet. And the other thing you might want is blocks under the hands, because we're going to let the weight of the head release, and we're going to be here for just a wee bit longer perhaps than usual. So feel free to have support under your hands to, support this position a little more. Whether your hands are on a chair or blocks or windowsill, whatever you've got. Soften a little through the knees. That's it. Make it nice and easy through the legs and through the back. And see if you can let the weight of your head release down. And now let's find little movements of the head nodding no. So yeah, turning your face towards one side and then the other. And can you feel like the back of your head is almost like moving towards the ground? Chin towards the chest a wee bit. And then when you let go of the weight of your head here, let's feel another full breath or two, breathing into the back. Keep reminding the head to stay heavy as you feel the support as much as you need in your hands and in your feet. And then while we keep the head heavy, shift more of the weight back into your feet now. So back towards your heels. You might bend the knees a little bit more. Can you rest the arms and let them dangle so that as we push down into our feet, we curl up and in through the belly. Tail draws towards the heels. As we come on up slowly, try to let the head come up last. So shoulders are going to stack above the ribs, and then the head lifts. Okay, lovely. So as we stand, let's just feel our feet supporting us and shift where they land to, feel that support down through the legs. You might lift and spread your toes. Loosen through the shoulders. Feel where they sit against your back. And then can we feel, tail stay heavy, ribs stay more or less above the hips, shoulders above the hips. And we're going to just maybe start to visualize the crown of the head, the top of it, shining a spotlight on the ceiling above you. Okay? So we've got that spotlight shining out the top of our head to the ceiling above. And we can start to allow for, let's draw a tiny circle with that spotlight, with our head. So we're moving from our head and our neck only to let our head draw a circle above. And maybe, start to notice the shape of that circle. Like, is it lopsided? Does your head sort of nod to one direction more easily than the other? And, can you make that circle gradually bigger? Now, you determine how big that is, right? So it's up to you. And of course, it can be lopsided more forward than behind you, right? Because sometimes bringing the head back isn't super comfortable for our neck. So make adjustments as you need to. Okay. So it's as big as it can comfortably be. And of course, as it gets bigger, you might have to slow it down a little bit. So now you might be sort of shining that spotlight closer to where the walls in your room meet the ceiling. Okay. And then coming back to center with your head. Maybe you'll figure it out. You tend to always kind of go in one direction automatically. So you might just notice what direction that was for you. You could name it like to the left or to the right or counterclockwise, clockwise. And then let's try it in the other direction, okay? So kind of feel like your head lifts towards the ceiling as you start to draw that spotlight in the other direction. Start small. Sometimes, often it's the second direction that feels just a little more awkward. Maybe the movement doesn't feel quite as smooth, So just get a sense of how it feels. Keeping the head feeling light as you let it circle. That's kind of the secret to keeping the neck more spacious. The space between the vertebrae so nothing's feeling compressed as we circle and start to draw those circles a little larger. Breath still moves. And, for now, just really noticing that you're moving just from neck up. Shoulders, upper back isn't moving. All right. Yeah, feel the natural size of your movement, no need to force it. All right. And then come on back to center. And again, just maybe take a moment and notice how things are feeling, in and around all sides of your neck. Both right and left side, front and back. Does the head feel a little lighter now? Do you feel a little taller? Okay. And then let's go ahead, and you might want a couple blocks for this, or, a chair in front of you. Let's keep the right foot where it is. We're going to step the left foot back and come into kind of warrior one stance. Try to keep both feet about hip distance apart from left to right, both feet facing as forward as they can stay, while your back heel is down, front knee is bent. Okay. So can we feel like our ribs are still directly up over our hips? And we might just first sense a little bit of lift through the front of the pelvis. So maybe feeling like the pubic bone is lifting a little more towards the navel, tail is heavier towards the floor. And then when we lift our arms, let's go ahead, and when we lift our arms, could we also extend a little more through the upper back so that we could look up towards the ceiling? So just looking up as high as is comfortable. And what's going to help lift your gaze, lift your head and neck towards the ceiling, is a little more extension into the upper back. Just notice that you're not dumping into your low back. You want to keep lifting up out of that low back. That's it. And then let's take the arms behind us down. As the arms reach back, could we move the back of the head towards the wall behind you a little more? That's it. So you're kind of finding that sort of double chin movement where you're tucking your chin in, base of the skull towards the wall behind you. Yeah. And then let's move it forward, straighten that front leg, and try to keep the base of the skull lifting, more towards the ceiling or towards the wall behind you, depending on how far down you've gone. So let's find that one more time. So let's come up, bend that front knee, lift the arms, lift through the front of the pelvis, lift through the chest. Try to look up as you lift the arms. Yep, finding that movement through the upper back as well. And then let's lower the arms so the head can kind of follow too, because we're no longer looking up. We'll bring the arms to stretch back. As the arms stretch back, could we move the back of the neck, base of the skull to the wall behind us? Keep that position in the neck as we come forward into our pyramid pose shape. So often when we're forward like this is what wants to happen, right? The chin moves down towards the chest and our whole head gets heavy with gravity. So we're trying to keep the back of the neck reaching back behind us or above us. Yes. Feel one more breath there. And then release the hands, maybe onto those blocks on either side of the foot, and let now a little bit of releasing space come into the back. So upper back can round, head can release. You might do a little movement through head, through neck, little nods yes and no. And feel another full slow breath there. And then as we inhale, let's come up about halfway and see if you can feel like the crown of your head reaches, shines towards the wall in front of you. Base of the skull lifts towards the ceiling above you. Can you keep that as you bring both arms forward and up, bend that front knee, and then take it one more time to lift the gaze to where it's comfortable, looking up. Really nice. And then bring it down and step together. All right. Check in. And we'll try it out on the other side. So left foot stays forward. We'll bring the right foot back. So with this front knee bent, back leg strong, pressing into that back heel, we're trying to lift from the hips up through the front of the pelvis, up through the front of the belly, as we let our arms lift. In order to lift our gaze, we might find a little more extension into the upper back. So can the chest feel like it's light to the sky as we lift our gaze? Back of the neck comfortable. And then when we bring our arms back down behind us, that's it. Notice how maybe the head, we can actually push it, the whole head forward, and then we can bring the whole head back. Okay, so with that, could we keep that as we move forward over this front leg? We can try to straighten it a little bit and try to keep the head from falling below our shoulders. Base of the skull keeps lifting. Back of the neck stays long. Great. And then let's go again. Front knee bends. Lift and lengthen up from that right hip, up through the front. As the chest lifts, let the head follow. Nice. And then bringing the arms back behind you. That's it. Just being careful that you're not pushing your ribs forward when you do that. And maybe seeing if you can bring the back of the neck to the wall behind you. Keeping that position in the neck as you come forward over your front leg. Just as far as you do, before your back wants to round, your head wants to release. All right. And then let's take it down. Hands can come to our blocks or whatever support you've got close by. And now let's feel a gentle rounding through the back. And so now you're looking more behind you, possibly. Finding chin moving towards the chest a little. Or any other small movements in the neck that are feeling good right now. Feel another breath here. And then lift again, about halfway up. Lengthen the crown of your head towards the front. Back of the neck towards the space behind it as you come up. Bend that front knee and lift one more time. Up towards the sky. Lifting the gaze with it. Great. And then step it together. Whew. And shake it out. All right. So now let's find our balance pose with trying to balance something on our head. So we're going to start this nice and easy with both feet on the floor, in other words. So whatever you happen to have, whether it's a light book or a light block, nothing too heavy that's going to compress, right? So try to balance it on your head as best you can. So that in and of itself takes some time. And see if you can feel as though your head is pushing up into that object. Pushing up into the block. Whew. As your head pushes up into the block, can you feel your feet pushing down into the floor? You might want to take your arms out to the sides to help you with this, right? As you shift your weight into whichever leg you like, so you can go to your preferred side to begin with. And as you shift weight into that foot, you might try to just first lift the other heel, and maybe you try to lift the other toes. You could bring this into tree pose if you want. Sole of the foot onto that inner leg, and of course you're welcome to keep the toes on the floor with your knee turned out to the side, heel resting on that inner ankle, okay? Or the whole sole of the foot can come to land anywhere on that inner leg. Whew. Yeah. So keep feeling like, yes, you're pushing down through your foot that's on the floor, and you're also pushing up into the block through the head. Some people find it easier to balance with something on their head because it's a way to concentrate a little differently. You might even choose a different position for the hands as you feel another breath here. Whew. Okay. And then we'll take it back down. Try to keep that block there. And of course, adjust as you need to. Find both feet. Feel the tailbone heavy as we stand into our feet. Feel the rest of the spine light, pushing up into the block. Yes, we're finding this lovely sort of axial extension, this decompression of our spine. We're getting taller just by sending our head up into the block. So then we can bring the arms wide if you want. Take the weight into your other foot. So you might just start to first lift off that heel. Toes can stay on the floor. You're welcome to pivot, turning that knee out to bring the heel to rest onto the inner ankle, perhaps. Each side challenges us a little differently. So notice how this side feels. And you're welcome to bring the whole sole of that foot onto the inner leg if you like. If you find this really easy, you could try turning your head. Woo! Looking over one shoulder, looking over the other shoulder. Hands could do anything at all. They could come above your head if you dare, or palms come together. Feel another couple breaths here. Nice. All right. And of course, sometimes we lose the block, so that's why it's light, because we don't want it to slam into our foot. Okay, so let's take that down. Let's make our way down onto the floor. So, let's just get there however you want to get there. We're going to come, let's go back into a downward dog. So with that downward dog now, can you feel maybe like, you still have that block on your head, right? And your head is kind of moving more, right, away from your tailbone. And your tailbone is stretching away from your head. And can you feel the length of your spine, and especially the length through your neck while you're in your downward dog here? Breathing through it. Okay, and then we can take ourselves forward into a plank. And when we come into our plank, of course, you're welcome to have your knees on the floor. And try to, again, feel like your head is reaching forward through the crown, but also the back of your neck, the base of your skull, is pushing towards the ceiling above you. Yeah, so that might tuck the chin in and down a wee bit more as you're here for another breath. And then let's lower, knees down if they're not already, and come on to the belly. And maybe we'll prop ourselves up for this one, propping up onto the elbows. So, you could have the fingers interlaced, elbows under the shoulders, or the palms could be down in front of the elbows. Any of those options are perfectly fine. Okay, so let's feel the front hips on the floor. If you find that this position is just too much in your low back, if you happen to have a pillow or bolster, you could bring the front hips onto that, so it's just a little less of an angle in that low back. Okay, so you can play around with that. Yeah, I might as well stay here. Okay, so feel the tops of your feet pushing back down into the floor. As you rest more weight into your forearms, try to lift your chest towards your fingertips or the space between them. And then let again your head release down. So as you let go of the head, you might feel also a bit of rounding come into your upper back. And then can we start to kind of unfurl the spine from bottom to top? Like We're lifting again, our chest towards our hands, and our neck and head is starting to lift, but the back of the neck is staying long, base of the skull almost moving more behind us as our head lifts, right? Feel that for another breath, finding that position through the head and neck. And then let's go ahead and bend our left knee just as much as it wants to as we look over that left shoulder. Yeah, and then coming back to center with the head as we lower the foot, and then bend the right knee and look over that right shoulder. Yeah, so we're turning to look over the right shoulder just as much as our neck goes. So try that again in each direction as we bend one knee, looking over that shoulder. Nice and slow movements here. And then back to center, standing into the tops of the feet. Maybe a little more of this hug up and in through the belly as we push down through the arms. Keep the back of the neck long for one last breath. Beauty. And then we can take the hands into the floor beside us. Push it back. Child's pose might feel good in the back after that. So you're welcome to find any variation of that position you like. Okay. And then let's have a seat for a moment. And I'd suggest, sitting up on something like a pillow or a block. And maybe I'll show it to you from sort of more the back. And you can find any comfortable seated position. I'm just going to sit cross-legged. And what we're going to do is take our right hand, maybe I'll do this one, right hand back of it to the lower back. And just see if you can start to kind of slide this hand back and forth over towards the opposite hip, just as far as it goes, and then back towards the same hip. And then you could clasp hold of that wrist with the opposite hand, or you could even interlace your fingers and do it this way, resting your hand towards your hip. But if your hand doesn't get there, then do this. So try to feel this right shoulder moving back and down as we let the head tip to the left, away from that right shoulder. And you'll notice a gentle stretch coming into the side of the neck. And we could also start to, as we keep our head tipped in that direction, we can feel a little nods of the head if you want. So chin down, chin up, really small movements, gentle. Getting into the tight spots you're noticing in your neck. You could also try to turn your head slightly to the left, down towards the shoulder, and then away from the shoulder. And pause where you're enjoying the stretch, basically. You're just playing around, exploring where you need it. Breathing into it. Good. And then release the arm. And slowly bring your head back up to center and just take a moment. Moving the head gently. So let's try it out on the other side. So left arm, the back of it, we can bring to our back. And we can just slide it along our back from left to right. So we're getting into the front of this shoulder a little bit too, you might have noticed. Okay. So as your hand goes over towards the opposite hip, you could hold on to your wrist with that right hand, or you could clasp your fingers and do it that way. But either way, what's going on is you're finding a little more space in the front of that left shoulder, and that shoulder is gently being pulled back and down while you tip your head away from it. So now the head tips to the left. And we can bring the chin down and up as we keep the head tipped to the right. Away from that left shoulder is what I meant to say. Yeah, we could also find as the head stays tipped, rotating chin towards the right shoulder and chin away from the right shoulder until you notice where you're enjoying the space in this side. Breathing into there. Okay, and then slowly releasing the arms, giving them a little shake, letting the head find space, and then, you might find just a gentle forward bend release, so maybe soles of the feet together if you want more symmetry, and come over the legs comfortably. Whoops. Feeling a couple breaths there. Okay, and then we'll make our way back onto our back again. So give the legs a little shake and find yourself resting comfortably on the back. Yeah, and as we settle into the floor again, feel free to find little movements once again into the head, the neck, and just notice where your head lands comfortably into the floor, how the neck is feeling now, how the shoulders land in relation to your ears and the floor. And taking a few moments to let your body soften into the support of the ground. And feeling the breath flowing through you naturally, effortlessly. And try to stay with it, staying with the movements of your breath within. And then as you come back to sense your whole body resting here again, notice how you feel, what you can sense. Yeah, and start to gradually deepen your breath as you reawaken your body through your hands and your feet. Finding any further stretch you're wanting. And maybe taking another moment or two resting on your side before you come up to sitting. So find a nice comfortable seat. Yeah, and just maybe check in. Feel a nice easy posture with your head feeling light, neck long. Letting the hands come together, taking a moment to give thanks for your practice, give thanks for this day. Thank you for joining me today. Namaste.